Good morning, everyone. It's February 8th, 2019. Here at SHTF Plan, the U.S. faces a catastrophic food supply crisis as farmers struggle. In my last video, I talked about the possibility of a mega quake happening in California. And there's reason to believe that it won't be too much longer. I also said that 2019 will bring unprecedented, next decade really, disasters. And it will lead to food supply problems, which we're already having. American farmers are battling several issues when it comes to producing our food. Regulated low prices, tariffs, and the inability to export have all cut into the salaries of farmers. They are officially in crisis mode, just like the United States food supply. The farm economy is in pretty tough shape, said John Newton, chief economist at the American Farm Bureau Federation. When you look out on the horizon of things to come, you start to see some cracks. Average farm income has fallen to near 15-year lows under President Donald Trump's policies. And in some areas of the country, farm bankruptcies are soaring. Thank you, Trump, you motherfucker. And with the slightly higher interest rates, many don't see borrowing money as an option. A lot of farmers are going to give the president the benefit of the doubt, and they shouldn't, and have to date. But the longer the trade war goes on, the more that dynamic changes, said Brian Kuhl, executive director of Farmers for Free Trade, according to Politico. With no end to the disastrous trade war in sight, many farmers have traveled to Washington to share their plights with the president himself, hoping that he'll end the trade war that's exacerbating an already precarious food crisis. Farmers make up a fairly large chunk of the president's base, and an unwillingness to put food production in the United States first could be detrimental for Trump's re-election chances in 2020. It can also be the beginning of a catastrophic food shortage. The Federal Reserve Bank of Minnesota warned back in November of rising Chapter 12 bankruptcies used by family farmers to restructure massive amounts of debt. The Fed said that the strain of low commodity prices is starting to show up, not just in bottom line profitability, but in simple viability. The increase in bankruptcies was driven by woes in Wisconsin's dairy sector, which shrunk by about 1,200 operations, or 13% from 2016 to October of 2019, or 18 rather. You've had farms that have gone out of business, that have gone bankrupt because of this trade war. There's a lot of farmers going through tough conversations right now with their leaders, and so far, the government's solutions to the problem they create is to give more welfare to farmers, placing the burden on the backs of taxpayers. As the government continues to pass the burden on to others while destroying the food industry, things could very well reach apocalyptic levels. Nothing will see this country spiral into complete disarray like a lack of food. Alarmingly, scientists have already said that the global food supply system is broken. Put it simply, government interference in the agricultural industry is responsible for the food crisis we are all about to face. Now, can anyone who sees this video name one thing, that government has interfered with and made it better? One. War on drugs. More people on drugs than ever. The war on poverty. More people poorer than ever. The war on terrorism. More terrorists than ever. Every time the government gets involved, it gets worse. This is why I keep telling you, we need to destroy the government. But, who's going to listen? Now, over here at Blacklisted News, there is something that could even lead to even worse disaster. No, not Blacklisted. DC Clothesline. Oh, where's it at? There it is. World War III Doomsday Threat. Russia media threatens U.S. with 100 megaton device. Now, it was the Russian media. Does that mean that it came from the Russian government? Who knows? Let's find out together. But you have to admit that Russia and the rest of the world has been rather patient with the United States. And eventually that patience is going to run out. So, Russian media has threatened the United States with a 100 megaton nuclear weapon after a key arms treaty failed. And we've been talking about this treaty for a few months. The Doomsday device was a threat lobbed by Russian state-sponsored media and the Russian military after the U.S. announced that the country will exit the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty. Although treaties don't mean much, the U.S. mainstream media seems to be afraid. According to MSN, the treaty was the only thing standing between Russia and another Cold War. It was one of the last barriers to a full-on Cold War like arms race in Europe, and there's already talk of a nuclear doomsday device visiting the U.S., wrote MSN. The treaty was useless, however, as Russia disobeyed it. Or Russia. How many treaties does the United States actually honor? None. Our politicians always break their word. And you wonder why no one fucking likes us or wants to deal with us, or it's because our politicians are lying sacks of shit that don't keep their word. So the INF Treaty banned land-based nuclear-capable missiles with a range between 300 and 3,200 miles in 1987, when Russia and the U.S. had populated much of Europe with intermediate-range nuclear missiles. The ban eliminated this entire class of missile and went down as one of the most successful acts of arms control ever, wrote MSN. Except it wasn't successful in the least because Russia spent years developing a nuclear-capable weapon banned by the treaty, making the treaty obsolete or worthless. The U.S. then responded by saying it would withdraw and design its own treaty-busting missiles. But the World War III and doomsday rhetoric jumped up a few notches when Russian media threatened to nuke the U.S. A BBC review of Russian newspapers, some state-owned and all adhering to state narratives or censored by the Kremlin, revealed some truly apocalyptic ideas. If the Americans deploy their new missiles near Russia's border, and, in response, we deploy ours, then of course the risks of nuclear conflict rise sharply, an arms control expert told one paper. If the U.S. missiles are deployed in Poland or the Baltic states, they'll be able to reach Russia in minutes. In such an event, the way Russia currently conceives using nuclear weapons as retaliatory strike becomes impossible, since there won't be time to work out which missiles have been launched against Russia, what their trajectory and their targets are, he continued. This is why there is now a temptation for both U.S. or for both us and them to adopt the doctrine of a preemptive strike. For those who missed it, a preemptive strike is sending a nuke over without provocation or at just a sign that there might be a conflict. So, it would be the smartest thing for Russia to do. I'm not accusing them of being smart in the slightest. I mean, they have taken our politicians' shit for the last 50 years or more. But if they were smart, they'd use that hypersonic missile, do a preemptive strike on the United States, specifically the power grid, and let nature take its course. We'll see what happens. But I don't think Donald Trump has helped the world tension in the slightest bit. He hasn't helped Russia-American relations the slightest bit. He has fucked over farmers and a lot of other people. So, go ahead and vote for him again in 2020, and go ahead and vote at all in 2020, and it will be to our detriment. Do not fucking vote for these people. Do not vote for them, because they are lying sacks of shit. Till next time, kill the state before the state kills you.